So have you ever watched some YouTube videos on something you're interested in, kind of thought to yourself, hey, I would like to try that, or even, hey, I could do that. How hard could that be? Well, yeah, me too. So decided to give it a try, and I'm going to do something I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is building a gaming PC that I don't know damn about doing. So I do own a gaming PC, but it's something I bought, as almost everybody out there who has a gaming PC has done themselves. It's just bought it pre-made or had somebody make it for them. But after watching a whole bunch of videos and seeing some people out there that build their own PCs, and some of these bigger YouTubers that are build PCs and show you like how to, I thought I'd give it a shot myself. So I went out and bought all the parts I could think of, and wrote a list down of what I wanted. Got some of the better stuff I could find, and decided I'm going to give it a shot. So, I got the i9 10th generation Intel chip. I even managed to get my hands on a EVGA 3080 FTW3 video card. Did overpay for it, but making this video, they were sold out everywhere, and the prices were about to skyrocket, which shortly after finishing this PC is exactly what happened. But I got some good parts in it. I'm going to put 2 terabytes M.2 into it, and then I'm going to try to spruce it up a little bit and put some white cable mods and some other things in there. A side bracket to mount my video card sideways. I got some awesome fans that I was able to secure from Newegg that have the halos around them, though they're a little bit pricier. I even got a Kraken Z73 cooler that I put into this computer, so that I was able to, have a little TV screen basically on it. Though it only plays little GIFs, it still is pretty awesome. So that's pretty much it. Got these parts, and I went out and attempted to put this computer together. And I'm going to tell you right now, it went pretty smoothly for the most part. There were some hiccups, and some things did not pan out the way I thought. And at the end of this video, you're going to see that a lot of what I did in this video, I had to change for various reasons, and I will explain that. But until then, I pretty much think that we got it covered. Alright, so let's get to it. So the first thing I did was decide on how I wanted to start it. And I thought the best way to begin this computer would be to start with the motherboard. So what I did was I pulled the motherboard out, and it comes in this nice static resistant packaging. And then we're going to start with the M.2. So I got 2 terabytes of SSD M.2, and thought that would be the first thing we popped in. So we're going to do the M.2, and it's actually pretty cool. It's about the size of a stick of gum. So this board that I bought actually has 2 slots for M.2. So you put it in the top. So there's M.2.1 and M.2.2. So the M.2.1 slot is where you put your first piece. If you do 2 M.2, you do it in the bottom, which I do take off just to take the plastic off of the thermal strip that's underneath. So after that, I'm going to put in my RAM. I got 4 sticks. That is 32 gigabytes altogether, and it's running at 4,000 hertz overclocked. So we then have the i9, and this is the 10th gen, the newest one that has come out. I would have liked to put a Ryzen in my PC, but they were going for somewhere between $900 and $1,000, as they were sold out everywhere also while I was trying to make this PC. Now I'm going to take some of this PC apart and just try to get the motherboard in there situated, and that will be our next step. So I basically had to line the motherboard up on its stands and slowly put it in there. I didn't want to scratch up the back. I don't know how many components on the back are very delicate, but I'm sure there's a lot. So we just kind of line it up onto its brackets and then bolt it down. It had 3 screws on the top, 2 in the middle, and then 3 on the bottom to secure it to this Lian lead case. After I got the motherboard secured, I decided I was going to try to get the power supply in, and that would give me an area to start wiring things into the PC. Now, I did take the power supply out and bolt it in to the PC. I'm not 100% sure that was the best thing to do at this point, but I didn't really know where else to go. So I knew I had some other parts I had to get in, but the power supply just seemed like an easy thing to do, so we just stuck it in there, bolted it in, and that was pretty much it. And once I got the power supply in, then I started wiring up the front panel into the motherboard. I thought this was going to be a lot harder than it was because it seemed like there were so many cords, but honestly it was not that difficult. Some of the LED panels and some of the smaller little pins that come in singular, that got a little bit difficult, but just one page in the manual just showed you exactly how they went. You just copied from the page in the manual and plugged them into the bottom of the motherboard. The audio cable went in very easily. The USB, I believe, 3.0 cord has a lot of pins, 20 pins, I believe, and that got a little bit difficult. Just trying to line them up so it would plug in, and I didn't want to bend anything. I knew if I bent even one pin in there, I'd be in trouble, and I didn't feel like experimenting with that. So we did get that in, and then we zip tied up these cords in the back, try to make them look better, and manage them a little bit for other cords to get in there. Thought that would be a lot easier. I did use a lot of zip ties in this build, and I'm happy I did. I have no regrets about that. So after we got it all wired up from the front panel, I decided it was time to put in the water pump and the coolant for the CPU. This I decided to put on the back, and I thought it would look cool. Now, I watched some videos and they said don't have the hoses hanging out from the top of the while you place it sideways, or just not to put the radiator on sideways at all unless you put it the cords down, because air will go to the top of it and it could end up eventually either starting, or eventually if it gets some permeation, it will happen and it will start to gurgle, and it will severely decrease the lifespan of the radiator and pump. Even though you see it in the advertisement itself for the pump, and the people who put cases advertisements out there, they always seem to have it in the front panel with the hoses up. Yeah, apparently not supposed to. But I was going to chance it and put it in, so I wanted to look a certain look with this case, so I thought that I was going to do it anyways. I didn't, and I did. But as you'll see in the end of the video, that did not stay like that through the entire build, and I will explain why at the end. So after I ended up getting the radiator in and the pump, I then decided I was going to put in the basically the brackets so I could install the pump onto the CPU. Issue it did come across was I couldn't get the bracket on behind this box where I believe was meant to store 2 drives. So a mistake I made, which I should have done right at the beginning, was pretty much dismantle the entire computer totally. And I didn't do that, so I found myself constantly trying to take things apart off the case while I was doing this build. And that did get a little bit annoying throughout the time I was putting this together. At this point in the build, these screws were really loose and I didn't know why. And I started thinking that I did something wrong and I just couldn't figure out. And the other screws I had were all part of the AMD kit that came with the radiator, and I didn't have anything left for the kit outside the 4 bolts to screw on to the bracket for the Intel. After looking at it, I kind of thought that once I got it mounted on there and I screwed it down, that it would pressure itself and pull itself together. So we decided to chance that, and honestly, that was the reason it was loose, and it ended up working. So happy about that. Here is I also decided to remove the stock thermal paste and put on some Thermo Grizzly Cryonaut for 2 reasons. One, I wanted a few degree cooler temperature that I could get because I'm pretty sure the stock thermal paste was garbage, and number 2, I really wanted to try to put on thermal paste because I haven't done it before. So we weren't sure exactly what pattern to use. You watch the videos, they tell you to use crisscross pattern, they use a rice pattern, a pea pattern, paste it on it. Everybody's got their own thing. I ended up deciding I was going to do a light covering of the entire CPU with the Thermal Grizzly, just to make sure it was all covered. And then I put not a very big dot, but a small dot right in the middle, just so it would push out and there would be more in the middle of the die, because the middle of the die is the part that gets the hottest. So that was my plan, and that's what I went with. So once I got the CPU cooler on, decided I was going to put in the rest of my fans. And I came up with a plan that I was going to put 3 fans on the bottom, 3 fans on the top. So I was going to use 9 of the 10 fans that I originally bought. But again, 2 more parts that I just had to take out for these SSD trays, because I should have taken them out right when I got the case before I started the build. Lesson learned. But I took them out, not a big deal. And here's where I made another mistake. I thought that the fans were going to, the way they were facing was the way that they were going to blow air out of. But actually they sucked the air in. So I thought I was going to be pushing air up through the CPU and the GPU and out the top. What I was actually doing was sucking air out the side and sucking air out the bottom. And the only place that was bringing air in was the top. So, and again, at the end of this video, you will see that didn't stay like that. Started working with the cable mod cables after I got all the fans in as well, and started wiring up the motherboard and pulling cables through and trying to figure out which cables went where. And they were fairly easy to figure out, but it was right around this point that things started looking a little confusing, and everything had gone fairly smooth in this build up until this point. But at this point, I started second guessing myself a little bit. And we were looking through the back and trying to figure out where cables went and which cables went to the top and which cables went to the CPU, or the GPU, and then into the motherboard. Now the 24-pin cable is pretty obvious, but this top two cables that went into the motherboard getting a little confusing, and then I started putting cables through for the GPU, and the GPU took 3 power cables because this 38 is pretty massive. But the cable mod kit that I just paid $100 for only came with 2, and none of the other cords would fit into the GPU 3rd slot. So yeah, I ended up having to pull a cord out from my the case from the EVGA power supply, one of the standard cables that came with it, and after this, go online and order a whole new pack for the one cable. It sucked. Then my next issue came with the nice Fantex vertical mount, and I thought that this was going to be easy. When I saw this and I saw the videos online, it looked extremely easy. And what could happen with just screwing on a mount? Well, let me tell you. Putting this mount on wasn't the hardest thing in the world after I think about it, but never ever seen one put on outside of the videos. The videos aren't always that great. They make it look fairly easy. Sometimes people are modding them. I didn't have to mod anything, and I was hoping I didn't have to mod anything for this. But I put it on, I screwed it in, and lo and behold, the thing felt extremely, extremely flimsy and not very sturdy at all. And that's when I started to panic a little bit. I was like, this thing is not going to work. It's not going to go on. I actually had to run back and watch a little bit of video. And after seeing somebody else put it on, they mentioned that there are some screws on the top of this thing. There's 2 on the very top. That once you get the GPU in there, that it should stay solid when it is bolted in. But until I watched that video, I was pretty sure I was screwed. And having watched the video where they mentioned the 2 screws on the top, they also mentioned, which was one of the most helpful things, was to put the GPU and the Fantex vertical mount, build it outside the case. And after I started putting it in, I could see why. I would have never gotten those 2 screws in the top of that mount. The way the case is built, it blocks them completely. And if I would have tried to, I would have just been taking it right back out and doing it as they said to do in the video. So after I got it in there and took a little bit of finagling to get it to sit right, I was able to go back and start wiring up the 3 cords that go into it. I got the 2 mod cable cords in there, and then had to put the 3rd one. And we're going to take it out, and it's pretty much ready to be started up. So we got it hooked up to a monitor, got a keyboard into it, and forgot to plug it in, but small issue, and boom. It worked. The damn thing started. Holy crap. I was actually pretty ecstatic at this point, but it was not going to last. So here's the final computer. It actually looks great. If you ask me, I think it looks fantastic. But it's not what you saw in the last clip. And here's why. Once I realized that my fans in the bottom were blowing air out of the case, and my top were blowing out of the case, and the only was coming in was from the side, my temperatures were going up, and it was causing a problem. I had to take the GPU out and flip the 3 fans on the bottom
so they were blowing air into the case, and I wanted all my air, the hot air, to rise and get out of the case. So the bottom was an intake, the top was an outtake, and the side was also a outtake. So we created a negative pressure in the case, and we also moved the radiator from the side to the top. And one of the biggest reasons I did that was because the white tubes were clashing with the GPU cords and the 24-pin cable, and it was just a big mess over there, and it did not look good at all. So we unscrewed that and put it on the top, screwed it back in, and then that was it. I downloaded the software, everything worked, and I even put a nice little Star Wars meme sitting in there. If you see it on that GPU or on the CPU screen for the cooler, it looked actually pretty awesome. No monitor was plugged in, so that's why the lights shut off and it actually went to sleep. But you just kind of had to tap the power button and turn it back on. Not a big deal, but you can see that Star Wars little GIF there, and it looks pretty awesome. And that was something else that I found on YouTube, that somebody had found to put the 20 megabytes clips on there by downing the resolution. But wow, was it worth it? Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope this inspires you to go out and try your own things. A lot of helpful things. Research YouTube and try your own projects. It's worth it.